Hey guys, I want to tell you about one of my favorite new companies, and that is Rep Provisions. So I met these guys at PaleoFX last year where they were just blowing everyone away with their beef sticks and pecan nut butter combo packs that are outrageously delicious. But as I talked to them, I was even more blown away because I found out what they were about. They are a regenerative agriculture company committed to the future of the planet by the proper management of cattle. So they are regenerating America's grasslands with the management of their cattle. Look into it. It's amazing. They have everything from, of course, high quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef to Mongolisa pork, which is like the Wagyu of pork, to bone broth popsicles, pecan nut butters, like I said, and so many amazing things. Go support them and support the future of our planet. And they're giving you 15% off for being a Kick-Ass Life podcast listener. So use coupon code KICKASSLIFE and get 15% off at repprovisions.com.
Hey everyone, we're going to take a minute here at the top of the show to chat with you about some of our sponsors who are offering incredible discounts for you and your family. We also only align ourselves with companies that we know are providing safe and healthy products, and also products that we actually consume on a regular, if not sometimes daily basis. And one of those companies is Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen products are incredible because they are dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free with no refined sugar. And they are delicious. So visit primalkitchen.com to check out the vast array of products available and use code KICKASSLIFE for 10% off.
Okay, so today we're talking about being fear motivated or faith motivated, or sometimes faith is a trigger word for people who aren't religious. So I'll say also you could say it as passion motivated, but it just means that what we want to talk about today is the driving force behind your life that's causing you to, drive towards things. Is that coming from running from fear or running towards something in faith? Because this is something that I talk about with entrepreneur friends, high achiever friends, and a lot of them are very candid about the fact that they are running from fear. They're running from fear of not being enough. They're running from fear that they won't have enough money, that they won't be good enough, that they won't be lovable. I appreciate the vulnerability, because it's really brought to mind for me. I'm like, there actually are a lot of high achievers in business and in fitness. You see this a lot. Like that's the driving force is if I gain a few pounds, I'm going to be less lovable. I'm going to be less enough. Right. And so I want to talk about this today because I've been both. I'm sure I probably have, in different areas, but I'll use fitness as an example. When I first got fit, I was definitely fear motivated for sure. 100%. And it's a powerful driver. That's why we use it, right? Because it works. That's why a lot of us are
what was the fear behind the motivation?
The fear was that I wasn't good enough for my husband at the time, that I wasn't attractive enough for him. We were having some marriage issues. And I thought, if I just get hotter like that, he'll just be like, oh my gosh, like I love her so much. I know, isn't that so sad? That was never it, ever, ever, ever. P.S. like fast forward, spoiler alert to the end of that. When I got really fit, he didn't even like that. He just wanted to go have fun and eat dessert on a Friday night. It was never about that. Right. But I made it about that in my mind. Right. So anyway, sometimes,
but it got you there and you're like, all right, well, that worked.
I did. I learned. And that's why I say, don't shame yourself for having fear motivations, because maybe that happened for a reason to push you into your purpose. Cause here I am because of all that. Right. And now I get to help lots and lots of people. And I also, what I really love to point out about this is that you can learn a lot of skills from that fear motivation. Let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're running multiple 7, 8-figure companies, but you're fear motivated. Well, you learned a lot of freaking skills on that journey. And then you can heal. We can heal. We're still here. The journey's not over. So you can heal those relationships. You can do things like therapy, coaching, plant medicines I'm a fan of, meditation. You can go on your healing journey. And now you can come from a place of faith motivation and love and empowerment, but you learn a whole bunch of ninja skills on the way when you're in your fear motivation. So don't shame yourself if you are, but we just want to open the conversation and talk about maybe some signs that you might be fear motivated, that you might be faith motivated. So I'll start out the gate. One of the biggest ways that I can tell if you're fear motivated or if you're faith motivated is the way you talk to yourself. So if your self-talk is negative and just mean and mother effer effing do it, you're probably fear motivated. You're probably real good at fear motivated. But if your self-talk is like, yeah, girl, you got this. Freaking awesome. Like that, I know you're faith motivated, because when you're driving, for me, I am very faith motivated in my life now. And I credit that to plant medicines, to meditation. Like when you are tapping into something bigger than you, and whether that's God or source or whatever that it means to you, or just your higher self, like when you're tapping into that all the time, at least for me, because I've been given like visions of things like that, whether they're just figments of my imagination or not, because I see that prize, because I see that thing and it's so beautiful and it's about other people too, and helping and service, and it drives me in a very self-loving way. Like, it's like, you can do this. You got this. Come on. Like, and so that drive comes from like running towards that faith goal, versus like, if I don't freaking build this business, then I'm like not going to be enough. Or So the self-talk is a huge indicator of whether you're driven by fear or driven by faith, you know? Another one, you can interject at any time, Elle, but another one is, what does your grind look like? Okay. So if you're fear motivated, it probably feels like a grind. It probably feels like a real freaking grind, and you can't stop. Even when you want to stop, you can't stop. And it's like a chaotic, manic, stressful grind. But when you're faith motivated, you're still going to grind. My drive has not gone away at all. I still work a lot, but it's like, cause you want to, cause you like it, cause you love it, cause it's like so beautiful like that. And it's okay. You're okay with some pause, you know, like this weekend I had my kids. It was like, no, everything pauses right now for everything else. The dream, this is part of the dream. All that stuff pauses, so I can be here now. And I think that's another indicator that you're not being driven by fears. Like, you're okay with some breaks and sharpening the saw.
Yeah, those are great. I thought of, and I think it's very important to talk about this person and her book, actually, because when it comes to health, if you are out there and you are fearful and you're doing everything, you're eating the kale and you're doing all the stuff because you are fearful of getting cancer, you have to look at that, and please read Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me, because this is what happened to her. I'm going to butcher her overall, but she is the most famous. There's a lot of people that have near-death experiences. They call it NDE. She is the most famous because her shit is documented beyond belief. Like, there's no, like, you know, some people could say they have it. And here's why. She feared cancer for so long. So she tried to do everything to avoid getting cancer.
Right.
And there were lots of other things in her life. This is a really amazing book. The audiobook is great. It's narrated by her. And then she gets cancer. She's got lymphoma. She's got tumors all over her body. She is in the hospital. She's dying. Her body's failing. Family's like coming in to see her. She goes into a 30-hour coma. In this coma, in the book, she talks about this near-death experience, what she experienced. Then she gets out of the coma. She wakes up. She's like, I don't have cancer anymore. And they're like, okay, just got out of a coma, a little bit crazy. She's like, check my frickin' body. They couldn't find any. So because they couldn't find any, they're like, well, we need to search harder. Her tumors shrunk significantly, went away. She's fine. She doesn't have it. Nobody really survived stage 4 lymphoma. This is why she is the most famous person in the world. And Dr. Wayne Dyer got a hold of her story many years ago because she had put it on the internet on a near-death experience site. People got a hold of it. They even flew to, she's Indian by nationality, but they flew to like China where she had lived. They got all the doctors, they showed the x-rays. I mean, you see, you know, so anyway, her book is amazing, you guys. If you have health fears, please go read her book, Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani, Moorjani. Audiobook is amazing. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times myself. It's beautiful. And I think so that's a tough one because, you know, there's people in their family all dying like, oh my God, I don't want to get cancer too because all my uncles did, or because, right. And someone can be in a real fear base that way. Of course, Tara and I would say to get out of that and look at all the wonderful things your body does and, you know, how amazing it is. And like, thank you, and appreciating everything you can. And of course, but I get that some people are in fear. Please read that book if you're someone who's fearful medically about something specific or in general. And then I would also say, yeah, fear is a good motivator. I'm sure, you know, you were probably highly motivated with the fire under your ass when you kind of didn't have anywhere to go, needed a job. I mean, there are some things where like the fear of being homeless or the fear that can absolutely drive you. But then here's the catcher is, once you're a little bit out of it, are you still in it? Are you still in the fight or flight? Because that can carry over.
Yep.
Absolutely. For example, I know someone, like so used to struggle, and then they got out of the struggle, but then they found themselves kind of creating struggles because this was what they were so used to. And so I sometimes I'm fear-based, sometimes I'm mostly faith-based, and I don't believe in a gods, but I still use the word faith. It's faith in the universe, faith in my ability to prevail, faith in whatever powers that be, or maybe faith in co-creation, faith in the power of my subconscious mind, and also faith because I have seen it before pan out positively from being faith-based in terms of my motivation than fear. But sometimes we can't help it.
Yeah.
We're thrown into a fearful scenario. I've been there a million times. So have you.
Yeah. I love everything you're saying. And I think that sometimes, I do admit sometimes I use fear strategically as a motivator. But I'm happy with it. So I'll share an example. After, yes, I got out of my craziness of like hit rock bottom financially, starting over from ground zero. For a while there, I think it's Tony Robbins has a quote that says, there's two things that will like make a person successful or something like that. And it was, inspiration or desperation. And I was like, man, I got both. Cause I got this vision. I have this whole like spiritual guidance thing, and I am freaking like at rock bottom. Right. So both of those things will cause you to, drive and action a lot. But I had an experience in which, I meditate often, and I am very like tapped into that spiritual source bigger than me. And sometimes every once in a while, I'll get like a little, like just a thought that will pop in my mind is like, go meditate. This kind of like incoming message, go meditate. And it will just be like randomly in the middle of the day or something. And I'll never forget this one. It was really meaningful to me. And it was, I just sat down in the middle of my floor in my bedroom and meditated. And I just got this like message that was just like, you don't have to worry anymore. Like you're on the side of the creators now, was the message that was given to me. It was like, you're not striving anymore. You're good. Like you don't have to worry. So act accordingly, like create, like come into this other space, and that was a really powerful shift for me because it went from, here's all the things I can do, like out of desperation, to like, okay, I have calm now. Like, what do I actually want to do from a place of power, from a place of creation, from a place of goodness, so that was really cool. But what I want to say about using fear, I do sometimes use it strategically, and I actually think
with other people.
I think this was a good, I don't know. I still stand by this one, but I noticed financially, I was getting to that point, that point where you get in your bank account where you're like, oh, things are good. Everything's good, like comfortable, like whatever, no worries. And I decided, I was like, I don't like this place. I don't like this place of like complacency. Like I'm not done yet. I got all these other things that I want to do and build and retreats. And like, I got more stuff to do. I can't be complacent. So I decided to pretend that what was double my bank account at the time would have been terrifying for me to see it that low. Right. So I was like, run it by me. You were thinking, let's just say you had $10 in the account. Let's just say it was $10. Okay. $10 is normally comfortable, right? Right. I see $10. I'm like, okay, I'm good here. And then, what I did was I pretended that I was living life at another level. And if I went in and it said $20, that I'd be like, shit, I got to freaking get my ass in gear. Like, so does that make sense?
Yeah. You're like playing the mental trick on yourself, coming from a place of being worth it. Be like, oh my God, that $20 is not enough at all. I'm freaking out.
It worked. Yeah, it worked. So just a little,
whatever works. Hey, and you know what? Here's where fear-based motivation has to happen sometimes too. And maybe it's with some of your clients. Sometimes I have to do it in medical situations with clients. If you really need the point to hit home about something, because that if they continue in this direction, I've had to have a couple that come to, and I'll tell them right away, like, wait, look, I'm going to be kind of harsh on this, but I got to lay it down, because if this keeps going in this direction, this is what you're looking for. Do you want that? And sometimes it does take a little tough, whatever. And again, like it would be anything. It would be like someone's already lost 3 toes to diabetes.
maybe the other, I mean, that's not one of my clients, but I'm saying I had a friend of mine. And maybe that's where you do have the intervention. Be like, look, this is what you're looking at. You want the leg amputated? Do you want this? Let me explain what's going to happen to you. That has happened several times, and it does kick people in the butt. They just need to understand that what they're doing is hurting them in a certain way to get it, to actually have someone go, you actually have power here too. That's the other part of it. Yeah. Especially when it comes to high antibodies with things where food affects that. That is only the patient that can do that. No one is forcing food into their mouth. So that is kind of sometimes where, depending on the discussion I have with someone, where, you know, you just need to kick someone's ass a little bit there.
Yeah.
And
like a healthy fear. It's
the
like
fear
reality.
part so that they understand.
Yeah. It's like, it's like a healthy fear. It's just real. Yeah. It's just reality. That kickstarted my mom into keto too, because she had type 2 diabetes and somebody she knew lost their leg. And I mean, it's just reality, you know? So yeah, sometimes I think fear as a driver, when it's just real, or, you know, even mine was like pretend, it can be useful as long as I guess it's not trickling into your intrinsic value as a human being, or like not enoughness. Cause so I'll relate back to the body since that's my area, but I'd say most people, like 99% of people, feel like their bodies are not enough, right? Most people who come to me are coming to me because they are in sadness and despair because of their bodies. Yep. And what I do with people is help them look at their body in a new way. And so we start to actually appreciate and value the body. And I'll use marriage as an example, relationships as an example. If you are constantly cutting down your partner and all you see is all the negative, that shit ain't gonna last.
Nope, you're gonna get left, cheated on, something.
Yeah. And like, even though I'm not married now, by choice, like when I was married, a few years into the marriage, I learned this. I was married for 13 years. And I learned this. I realized I was starting to like nitpick, I was just like starting to identify all these little things I didn't like. And I just had this like come to Jesus moment. I distinctly remember it. I was like washing dishes and I was like, dude, this is not helpful. Like if I stay like this, like I'm never going to be able to be in love with my husband. Like I'm going to be all just like, I don't like this vibe. So I am going to just start to pinpoint the good in him. I am just going to start looking for the good.
On the positives. Yeah.
Right. And guess what happened? Everything went astronomical after that. Like things were so good, and I'd say, for the majority of my marriage, it was a healthy, good relationship. And it was because of that. And even now we have a healthy, good co-parenting relationship because again, we choose to do that, or at least I do. I don't know what he does behind closed doors, but it seems like things are good. But it's like, man, and pinpointing like, dude, you're so awesome about taking the kids out on trips. Like you're so much better about that. I mean, good job. Like, I'm so glad they have that. And that kind of positivity breeds happiness. And so with our bodies, when we're sitting there, like nitpicking, like not enough, and you hear this even in people who aren't worried about their body fat per se, or whatever, you hear this, like as people age, like, oh, my freaking body. Oh, my hips, my feet, my arm, my stupid, blah, 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 blah. Like there's just such a negative connotation to the body that's almost culturally expected.
Yes.
And when we switch that and we switch into this place of like seeing our body for the freaking amazing things that they are, they're so amazing that we don't even know how they work. Okay. So we can like humble ourselves a little bit and bow down to the awesomeness of the creation that is the human body that auto heals itself and runs off of a freaking heartbeat that we don't even understand how that works completely for like 100 years, right? We don't even know. And we're sitting there like criticizing it. It's
also
laughable.
too, if you're talking about manifesting any kind of goal, you're never going to get the new house if you keep shitting on the one you have. You have to find things that you like about it. You don't have to fake it and stare at an ugly door and go, I love that door. I really love that door. No, but you can find something to appreciate. Gratitude. It's like, you know what? This has been a great shelter for me. It's quiet.
Yeah.
I love that everything works in here. Even if you have to go down to the base, but the more you bitch about it, the longer it's going to take you to get there.
It's so true.
Resistance. And so you have to find the positives, which by the way, is really difficult when you're fat and bloated and hypothyroid and screwed up and all this kind of stuff. But the truth is you start with, well, I woke up today. I mean, I'm not fucking kidding you, Tara. Like that. Sometimes it just starts there with like, I woke up, I've got another chance at this. I have another chance to fix and get better.
Yep.
I'm grateful today. I can speak to someone I love. I'm grateful I'll get to eat today. That'll be fun. I'm excited about what doesn't matter.
Right,
Someone has
right.
it worse than you, and there's something positive about your situation to
Right.
point out. Even if you're in chronic pain, maybe you have a lovely daughter. At least you're alive to be a parent to them, even though you might be suffering. There's got to be a positive somewhere. You have to start to point them out,
right.
or it's never going to turn around, particularly with the body. Because if you're always like, I've got to lose weight, I've got to lose weight, I've got to lose weight, well, then you're kind of always saying you're going to be in a state where you always have to lose weight versus, you know, I'm in the process. I'm in the process of having the body I want. I'm in the process of having a healthy, happy body that I'm excited about being in, or whatever. Anything that rings true to you. You don't have to lie to yourself and look in the mirror and go, I love my legs, even when you don't. But you could be like, I love them. They help me stand. They help me walk. And I'm so excited about being in ones that are even better than the ones I have now. Whatever. Got to tinge it towards the positive.
Totally. Because you're changing your vibrational energy. So if you're constantly cutting yourself down, you're just disempowering yourself. Your vibration is going low. So think about being driven and doing all the things that you're doing in this vibrational state of like, yeah, I got this. Let's go, baby. Come on. These legs, you guys got it. You're good. You know, like self-coaching them. Like maybe you don't like your legs. Let's use that as an example. Like the more you cut them down, the less joy you're going to have in the journey. And two, I promise you the worse results you're going to have. And even if you do get quote unquote results, you'll never think you will never think you have them because you'll never be enough because you're operating in not enoughness. Right.
But you'll sort of be orthorexic, essentially, I guess, is what that one.
Exactly. And there's lots of people in that boat. And so when you can switch it and you start seeing yourself and getting into that empowered mindset, that's the biggest thing I've noticed is from switching from like fear drive to faith drive is the gratitude all along the way. Maybe that's because I do have a consistent gratitude practice. I read it every freaking morning, right? Well, maybe once in a while I miss.
Okay, made it naturally to you. Made it natural for you.
Yeah.
Which is if you miss it one morning, you'd be doing it in your head anyway.
Exactly. Because I walk around, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for this yummy coffee. Or, you know, like it becomes a way of being.
I was grateful for hot water yesterday. I had a thought. I was taking a shower and I had a thought. I don't know if you've had that. I literally had this thought where I was like, oh, fuck, man, there's people in this world like don't even never experience a hot shower. And then I thought, oh, how amazing would that be? The first time someone had a hot shower.
Oh my gosh.
And here I am. And again, it was just 2 seconds.
I kid you not, like maybe 4 or 5 days ago, I got in the shower and it felt so good. I literally said out loud, because you guys all know I talk out loud to myself. I was like, thank you to all of the people, the person who invented plumbing and water and all the people making that happen currently. Like I was saying out loud, I'm like, thank you. Because this shit is amazing. And it's like affordable and
we take it for granted. We take it for granted. So if you need to, on the gratitude train, that's where you start. You start with the little things we all piss off and throw away. I also want to say this, about fear. Okay. So maybe this will make sense. I want to clarify it. If there's any fear you should have, I feel it should be fear that you are not fulfilling and going after the desires that are within you. Yeah. That you should be afraid of. Because when you get to the end of your life, you are going to regret that you will. And I can say that because I've been someone who was forced into following their dreams and passions. Now at the end where people did all the stuff to avoid it because they were doing all the things I couldn't do. And now they are like, what's my life? I don't, you know what I mean? They are like, what was that all for? I just ran after money and all this stuff. Not bad goals. Of course, I would have been there too if the arm thing didn't happen to me. But I will say the stuff, I was talking to a friend yesterday who was like, God, I really don't want to do this 9-to-5 thing anymore. They've been in it for a while. They're young too. And they're like, I can't imagine the rest of my life like this. And because I don't work 9-to-5 and haven't for 20 years or so, and I do make my own schedule, I said to him, and this is really true, there is no amount of anything that like, I wouldn't take anyone else's bank account right now for the experiences I've had in those years. They were just, so good and still provide joy, even though that happened even 10 years ago or 7 years ago. All of those experiences mean more to me than anything in the world. And so I think that that's the truth really is people come across a certain point in their life and they go, what was it all for? Or I really wanted to do that, but I didn't. That's the stuff that you should start to think about now. Let the fear of maybe never even taking a step forward be the motivator possibly, or also faith. But if you're like, oh, I don't know if I could do it, whatever, do it, because you don't want to get to the end of your life and go, well, I wish I would have tried it. I wish I would have at least taken a singing class. I could have done at least that. I didn't have to go on American Idol, but maybe I should have there's some component to a dream or a desire or a hobby or something you love you're not doing. Be more afraid of not accomplishing or reaching those. Does that make sense? Does that sound
totally? Yeah, no. And I mean, even if it's not professionally, like some people have 9 to 5s that they really do love. Like my ex-husband is a school administrator, right? But he's really good at it. He's super good at solving problems. He's great with teenagers. They love him. Like, you know what I mean? He is definitely in his purpose, you know, like it's a perfect fit, and he's happy, and he loves that he doesn't have to do the entrepreneurial thing where he's always working. When he's done, and he can be with his family, you know? So there's plenty of like 9 to 5s where people can be in their purpose and happy. And then, but it's like, yes, on the flip side is like, what are all those other things though? The things that pop up in your soul that's like, you care, you want it. Like, are you executing on those things? Right. Or maybe it's a, like relationship that you need to get out of or get into, or maybe it's a conversation you need to have with your dad, or maybe it's, you know, hiring a coach to help you, or getting a therapist because you notice you're just pissed off all the time and it's just never getting better. You know, like what are those little things pinging at you? I agree 100%. Like there is always going to be fear when we're adapting, when we're trying something new, always that little bit of fear of like, what I find is it usually comes into, do I really need to do that? That's what it usually, do I really is, I'm good. Like, right. This complacency sinks in, but if it keeps coming up, you know what I mean? Like just have the courage, because I generally find, I say this a lot, that everything you want in life is on the other side of your fear. Because
and you know what fear is? The acronym, it stands for really false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
And we should talk about that because you know what I love is that it's just kind of a funny thing that we do as humans. And maybe not just because we're human, but because of social construction, society and stuff. But a great quote by Mark Twain. He said, I'm an old man. I've had many worries in my life, most of which have never happened. I asked my mom once, my mom would be really worried about me over the periods, like any kind of mom usually is, maybe over. And one time I said to her, I go, hey mom, can we go back on my life? Let's look at all those times where you were like so worried about whatever. And I named a few things along the way. And she's like, okay. And I go, now, did any of those worries you had that kept you up at night, that stressed you out, did any of them come true? And she was like 15 seconds. And then she goes, no. And I was like, right. We always err on that side though. Sometimes the same goes for you. Let's say I false evidence appearing real. I'm fearful I'll get broken up with. I'm fearful I'll lose my job, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I start crying and freaking out about the end result of this thing already happened that hasn't even happened yet, but I'm worried about it. We do that all the fucking time, but we don't go the other way. Why wouldn't you go the other way? Why do you choose this level of pretending and you are adverse or won't pretend in the other way? Because that's stupid. That doesn't work. I can't be happy if I'm not happy. How do I pretend, get into that space? That's just dumb. You do it all the time in the negative. You do it all the time, but yet you're trusting that. So you have no problem with doing it there. Does that make sense, Tara?
Yes, because actually,
crazy. And I'm guilty. We're all guilty, but like, what the fuck? It's crazy.
So I just finished reading Big Potential by Sean Achor, who also wrote The Happiness Advantage.
Would you recommend it?
Oh, definitely.
What's it called?
Big Potential. He's amazing. Sean Achor is like the shit. I would read anything he puts out. He's so good. Positive psychology expert, tons of research, Harvard educated, you know, I mean, like in the book you mentioned, like Oprah had him on her Soul, whatever. He like
Soul
speaks
Sunday
to like
or whatever,
the freaking like military at Camp David and stuff. I mean, he's really amazing. He's just a nerdy, wonderful person. But anyway, he talks about in the research in positive psychology, they found that it's easier for us to focus on the negative than the positive. It is easier. So think about that. Every time you're sitting there just focusing on the negative,
taking the easy route,
taking the easy way out. Yep. You're doing that's basic shit. You're doing basic. You're just being a basic bitch. You're just thinking about the easy. It's easy to worry and be focused on the negative. But
so
you're
when
right.
Someone says, well, why don't you get into a little space, take a moment, start to do the positive, and then people are resistant to that. That's where you have to draw the contradiction with yourself because you're doing it over here and you're fine with it.
Yeah.
Yet you're choosing not to, or thinking it's ridiculous to do it on the other side. It does take more work, but it's the better work. It's also the better feeling in the moment. It's also better for your adrenals and cortisol that you're not crying and freaking out over something that you don't even know whether it's happened yet or not.
Listen, there is a neurochemical component here too. So a lot of people who have anxiety, who have racing thoughts and they just can't stop, they're probably like, fuck you guys right now because because I get it. But so some of that, I'm not saying I have the answers for all anxiety, but some of it for sure is related to low GABA. And if you have low GABA, that means you will have higher glutamate. Okay. So glutamate, the most abundant neurotransmitter, it's an excitatory neurotransmitter. And when you have an excess of glutamate, you are going to feel like chronic racing thoughts that have no freaking brake pedal. You're just a car racing down the road. So some people have an enzyme, the GAD enzyme, they have mutations on it where they have poor conversion of glutamate into GABA. Or if you have gut issues where a lot of your GABA, most of your GABA is made, you're going to tend to have a little bit lower GABA and higher glutamate. So you may have racing thoughts and it doesn't matter how hard you freaking try. It's just going to be going, going, going. A few things that help increase GABA. One is get your gut fixed. Two, exogenous ketones. So the ketones that you drink, ketone bodies actually do help increase GABA. So that's something, you don't have to do keto. You could try keto, or you could drink exogenous ketones. Those can help. And again, there's a lot of GABAergic foods. GABA supplements are kind of controversial.
No, it's great you're saying this though, because I think it brings the main point of, hey, you might think you're quote like this and you're not. Your nutrition and your body composition is prompting or making this more likely to happen. And there is something to look through there. And this is why Tara and I on any subject would say, well, let's get to the health here, clear that out, rule stuff out. And then you go from there.
Right. Because some of it is like it's hard to win a chemical battle when your hormones and your neurochemistry are telling you to do something. You're just kind of like a slave to that, honestly. Like it's very, very powerful because you think it's you, but it's actually your little chemical messengers in there kind of controlling you. It's crazy. And the biggest thing I'll say on GABA and glutamate is sugar is a huge excitatory. Sugar builds glutamate. Bottom line, that's why like kids, like you see kids that are sensitive to it. Like I know my oldest son, he turns into, it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when he has sugar. He's like super awesome kid. And then all of a sudden he has sugar and he's just like off the walls, trying to annoy everybody, just being a punk. Like, sorry, I love you, Cheers, but when he has sugar, he is not himself, And so I really think that he is sensitive to that. He also is driven towards foods that are high in omega-3s, which are going to be anti-inflammatory and bring that back down. So he loves like sardines and mackerel in the cans and like algae.
Do you think he naturally craves that because the body in there knows?
Oh yeah, I think he is prone to inflammation neurochemically. And I think his body is craving that. I mean, he literally like will feast on fish like Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Like happen with young kids and boys. That's a very
he's just going bananas on it. I'm like, he needs that. And I've noticed when he does have sugar, it's like,
thank God you're these kids' mom. You know all this stuff. You can look out for these things. You can understand it.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that knowledge. I just pointed out to him. I'm like, you're gonna have sugar, dude. But just notice. I just want you to notice, so you know that going into adulthood. Like I want you to notice that change and how you feel, but,
and same goes for people that are like, I could drink coffee all day and I'm fine. But there are people that like, that just is a friggin' anxiety attack with like even if it has a green tea in a supplement and it's like the smallest bit. So yeah, you got to look at that because also that can contribute to whether you're fear-based or faith-based or where your gratitude levels are at based on all the things you just said. Fascinating.
Yeah. So on the caffeine thing, guys, there is the CYP1A2 gene is the gene associated with caffeine metabolism. I'm a fast metabolizer of caffeine. It's really interesting when you look at that because actually like fast metabolizers get better a workout boost from caffeine than slow metabolizers do. And generally like you don't even have to do a DNA test, guys, like I do this with my clients, right? And so every time I get to the caffeine one, if they are a slow metabolizer, guaranteed, they will say, "Oh, I don't drink caffeine. Oh no, I don't do caffeine." Or if they do, they're like, "Oh yeah, it messes me up bad. I already know that." And then the normal ones that are usually almost to a T will say, "Yeah, I try not to have it after like noon or maybe 2 p.m. at the latest, or I can't fall asleep." And then the fast metabolizers are like, 9 p.m. baby. I don't care. Doesn't matter.
Right before bed.
Yeah. So it's, you don't really need a DNA test, honestly, like you kind of know, but you're right. Like there are times where it's like, I've had too much caffeine. I just worked out. I have a ton of stress and I can just feel I'm getting all these texts. "Hey Tara, I need this." And I can just feel myself going like, I'm like working up and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Like I've been
like,
there.
no caffeine, nothing else to bring you up. Close the freaking laptop, breathe. Okay. Or can we come back down to earth? And one practice I do is when the thoughts start coming in, I'm like, let it go, let it go. Let it go. I just close my eyes and I breathe deep. And I'll feel that they're just coming. They've been waiting in line. They're just all coming in like 30 of them. And I'm like, let it go, let it go, let it go. And then once I come back to peace, then I can operate from a place of groundedness instead of like frantic, you know? So there are some hacks you can do, but yes, there is anyway, what I kind of circling back to, like, let's say you do have high glutamate. Let's say you are like just constantly like running in your mind. Back to what Elle was saying, like you can choose which thoughts you're going to fixate on. If you're going to be fixated on thoughts, let's get fixated on empowerment, right? So like let's get
fixated on a dream. You know what? It takes like, do you have any kind of dream? No matter what it is, maybe you like want new clothes, you want a new kitchen in your house. Great. Go online, look at photos of beautiful kids. Put yourself. I have to go on Instagram sometimes and look at golden doodle shit just to clear my attitude up.
Highly recommend
doggies and babies, and then I'm fine. But yeah. I'm like, if I don't change this, so that's the most immediate for me is like doggies and puppies, and then I can, or a podcast. You know, for example, the other day I was doing stuff around the house, like just cleaning and stuff, and I wasn't listening to anything. And my thoughts were sort of wandering. I was like, this is kind of like a waste. Let me put on so I put on like my friend's positivity, like manifestation podcast, because I was like, I want to be directed right now. I'm doing some mindless things. I don't want to let me have it directed for me in a positive way. And that just took a conscious moment, seeing my thoughts kind of go everywhere. And then I was like, and they weren't necessarily negative, but it was like, this is a mishmash. So why don't we place it into a positive thing?
Yeah. I guess, the last thing I was really just thinking is like, if you're fear motivated, like you're normal, like there's no shaming in that. And I'm sure I'm fear motivated in a lot of places. I'm just not even seeing it, but I do know that I'm faith motivated in kind of my purpose in life. And so, I guess my, challenge or what I recommend if you're listening is just pick one thing, just experiment with this one thing that you would like to be faith motivated by, passion motivated by, instead of fear of not enoughness, fear motivated. So the way that I do that is I drop into meditation. Okay. You got 10 minutes. Okay. Any little story going on in your mind where you don't have 10 minutes to meditate is just resistance because it's something new and it's uncomfortable and it feels boring and you don't want to do it. But I promise, like, your whole life can change. Your literally your neuro wiring, your brain wiring can change from meditating. You become more comfortable with silence. I just can't say enough about it. But if you drop into that space and meditate and you just ask out just one thing, okay? Like just pick one area. So maybe that's relationships for you, or maybe that's your body. Maybe it's your business or finances, something. And I just ask out loud. I really recommend this. Just ask out loud. Like, can you help me understand what I need to do to get to be happier in this area? Can you give me one thing, one step? And just go blank, just breathe into it and just open up your mind and stay in that space. And I'm telling you, something will come in. And then it's up to you if you're going to have the courage to act on that. So for example, with my hip stuff, I did this once. I was like, what is going on with my freaking hip?
Oh, you had a hip problem?
I had an injury, like a high hamstring pull, basically, right? And my glutes lingering forever. And I just asked out loud like that. I was like, what do you need me to do? And I just got, we need you to stop running and we need you to go to yoga. And I was like, okay, now it's
which is like not your choice. That's not
right,
really your
because I love running, right? Like I wanted to, but I honored that. And it took commitment too. Because that was also, I didn't have a consistent yoga practice at the time.
Yeah, you're not like, that's not your thing. Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go run on Sunday and like get my music going and go bananas in the gym. Like I always do. Right. And get the same results from doing the same thing I always do. So I stopped running. I was like, girl, you can like stair step or walk or something. You're not going to die if you don't run. Like you're okay. And then going to yoga. And now I don't have that anymore. Every once in a while, if I push it way too hard on sprints, a tiny little bit will pop up. And then I know I just need to give it a rest, leave it alone, and I go to my soft tissue worker and do yoga and all that. So anyway, my point is like, you'll get an answer, but it's up to you if you're going to have the courage to do what it's asking you. Right. But if you do, I'm telling you what Elle says will happen, and you get a prize. If you have courage
to
act on it, you get a prize.
And if you're unmotivated right now and you want to get motivated about something, well, of course, we would say get your health, your gut, everything together, because it changes all the neurotransmitters and chemicals and your energy, your creative wherewithal, your brain function and everything. So that'll actually be the best if you can do that. But aside from that, maybe you just do one dumb, small thing towards whatever it is that you want. Again, you really want to be a singer. All right, you know what? Watch a YouTube instructional video, Singing 101, and just be alone and do it. You don't have to go out and take a class, but just do something towards it. Even if you're just researching about it, looking, listening, anything within a field that you want to get motivated in. Yeah, I'm not sure what else I have to say on this.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. So yeah, curious if you guys have any little experiences with this. You know that we love to hear from you guys. Come join us in our Kick-Ass Life podcast Facebook group, or you can follow us on Instagram. We're always on there. So @_Elle Russ or @Coach Tara Garrison. Again, we appreciate you guys sharing episodes. Some of you have been sharing on social media and tagging us. Thank you. That helps us grow the podcast, and so do your reviews. So thank you for those. And yeah, we'll go ahead and close it out until next week. Thanks for being here, guys.
Bye.